Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. We are, now this is a series on Metta Sutta, the Buddha's discourse on universal love. And in this series we have so far discussed, this is the 30th in the series, 30th Dhamma talk in the series. Now we have been discussing about the last verse of Metta Sutta, which describes exactly what you can achieve here and now by practicing Metta, universal love, in three distinct levels: the level of Sila, virtue, Metta as virtuous practice, virtuous life, Metta as Samadhi, or you attain the jhanas, the absorptions, ecstatic absorptions, and bring about a complete change. You raise your consciousness to the level of the Brahmaloka and thereby bring about a complete purification of mind, and therewith achieve all kinds of supernormal powers. But that doesn't mean that you have brought about a spiritual transformation. No. This will occur only at the level of Panya, Metta as Panya or Vipassana Panya. That is intuitive wisdom into the reality, into the ultimate reality of things, in the form of the Four Noble Truths. Now the experience of the Four Noble Truths, when it is achieved totally, now that is the state of enlightenment. The first noble truth, it unfolds the reality of samsara, which ultimately boils down to the five aggregates of existence. These five aggregates, now you see a man or a woman and you say it's a man or a woman. But that's the appearance, it's a conventional term given to a particular object. Now if you go behind or underlying what appears to be a man or a woman, so if you are able to penetrate into the reality underlying this object called man or woman, what you find is Panchakhanda, a complex of mental and material phenomena. The five khandas, the man or the woman represents nothing but a huge complex of phenomena. Material phenomena representing the body, and mental phenomena represented by four distinct mental factors: feelings, perceptions, mental formations, or rather karmic formations, and consciousness. Nama Rupa. Ultimately a man or a woman boils down to that, Nama Rupa. But then for an organized living in the society, in a plane of existence, without conflict and without any controversy, you need to organize this process called living in a manner that enables you to enjoy maximum comfort and happiness, and at the same time cultivate spiritually, cultivate Sila, Samadhi, Panya. So now Metta Sutta ultimately can be, you see, it can be interpreted in the form of these three. The Noble Eightfold Path, which boils down to Sila, Samadhi, Panya, or the training in virtue, in moral conduct, training in mental purification, training in wisdom purification. So, Sila Vishuddhi, Sila brings about Sila Vishuddhi, purification of morality or moral purification. And by this purification you are developing something also. Training in your moral precepts simply means you are training to develop yourself in a certain way. So Sila Vishuddhi amounts to not only training by means of the moral precepts, but also bringing about a moral purification within, which simply means purification of mind at a certain level. Now when you purify the mind, you also bring about development of the mind. You bring about a change in the level of your consciousness. When you bring about, let us say, purification of morality or virtuous conduct, what is happening? Your mind also is undergoing change. It is undergoing a state of purification. And by purifying the mind, you develop the mind, all the potentials of the mind. Mind is a vast and infinite, it has vast and infinite potentials, powers. All those, as you develop, those are also developed. But these potentials develop in the form of going upwards. You are reborn, let us say, in the Devaloka, in the Kamavachara Devaloka, or Rupavachara Brahmaloka, and so on. But it doesn't free you from the wheel of samsara. You may be born as a Kamavachara Deva and enjoy a great deal of blissful existence and a long, long life. Our lives are computed in terms of years, but the lives of the Devas and the Brahmas are computed in terms of aeons, hundreds and thousands, kalpa, hundreds and thousands of years, millions of years, and so on. So you may enjoy a tremendously long lifespan of great happiness and blissful existence, but that doesn't mean that you are freed from the cycle of samsara, which means recurring existence. You have gotten into the state of a Deva or a Brahma by training your mind and training your life in the form of virtuous life, and the mind developing through meditation and so on. You are born there. Very good. But then you have to die. Whatever has a beginning also has an end. And it is the cumulative effects of the kusala karma, the good deeds that you have accumulated. Now these good deeds that you have accumulated leads you at two levels. First of all, at the level of the Kamavachara Deva through Sila Vishuddhi, and then if you meditate further with your Sila Vishuddhi, it leads you to Rupavachara Brahmalok. You develop a consciousness through jhana or samadhi, which is akin to the consciousness of the Brahma gods. That is why now metta is called Brahma Vihara. If you cultivate metta in a systematic and very methodical way, metta as Sila, metta as Samadhi, metta as Vipassana Panya. The Metta Sutta can be divided into these three levels of training, development, and perfection. So, once it is done, your consciousness gets transported into a different dimension which is known as the supermundane or the transcendental dimension of existence. Now, with Sila, you can lift your consciousness to the Devaloka. You can be reborn there. With Samadhi, you can be reborn in Brahmaloka. And with Vipassana Panya, based on Metta, practice of universal love, you can achieve the supermundane levels of insight, knowledge, and insight here means insight into the reality, ultimate reality. That means ultimate as represented by the Four Noble Truths. You penetrate into the reality of samsaric existence, recurring existence, life after life after life, hundreds, thousands, millions of lives we have lived already, and will continue to live as we drift in this ocean of samsara, endlessly and aimlessly keep on. Or the other metaphor, as you keep on wandering from life to life, samsarati, wandering from life to life, aimlessly and endlessly, motivated entirely by volitional activity, karma. Once you are born, till you die, what are you doing? Just getting engaged in all karma in one form or other, volitional activity in one form or other, either by way of thinking, or by way of speaking, or by way of acting. So these threefold volitional activities, mental karma, verbal karma, and bodily karma activities. Now these karmas have a certain potential. I have spoken about in the last discourse also. The potential here means, or rather potency. It means the capacity or the power to give a certain result. If you keep to your sila, observe them very sincerely and seriously, you are committed to a new type of lifestyle where you don't kill, where your life is completely dedicated to non-violence and offensiveness and love, compassion. Such a life, once you develop that, you practice that way, and you are developing these virtues of non-violence and love and compassion, then if you keep on doing that, your consciousness gets completely changed. You are no longer violent in any manner, either whether mental violence, thinking in a violent way, by way of harboring ill will, hatred, anger, or bursting out into anger through speech, or hitting somebody's nose with a blow, bodily, you see. So now, once you are above by practicing sila, you simply will not do these things, because your mind undergoes change, so your conduct undergoes change. And this change that sila brings about, again, if you accumulate these virtuous, through virtuous conduct, accumulate karmas which are wholesome. These wholesome karmas, kusala karmas, at the time of death, catapults you into a new sphere of existence, let us say the Devaloka. There are 6 such Kamavachara Devalokas, and in any one of them you can be born. But that doesn't mean liberation. That has to be kept in mind. Or if you develop further your mind, purify your mind, develop your mind, and in that way, with this purification and development, you bring about transformation of the mind. Now, if you develop through samadhi, the type of consciousness which is akin to the consciousness of the Brahma divinities of immense, long life and great blessing and bliss, they simply don't know what suffering is. A Brahma God whose consciousness is so imbued with metta, with loving kindness, with universal love, he simply doesn't know what suffering is. So to that extent his consciousness is not fully transformed. So he enjoys a great happy life, no doubt, and long life, but anything which has a beginning must have an end. So even that life comes to an end. That means he too dies. He too is a part of this cycle, you see, of the cycle of coming into existence and dying, passing out of that existence. And if he has meanwhile, as a Brahma, developed the spiritual, you see, if he undertakes, a life of spiritual pursuit further and develops further, he can go either higher, or if he develops vipassana, he can be liberated, he can get, his mind will be transformed, and this transformation is known as supermundane consciousness or lokuttara chitta. An example last time we gave about mental transformation. Transformation means, now milk you can keep for a couple of days. You turn it into butter, you can keep it for maybe a couple of months. And if you further turn it into ghee, several years. So this is called this transmutation process, brings about transformation. So as a butter or a ghee, it can never revert to the old state of milk. So the consciousness undergoes a similar process of change, whereby the mind is no longer subject to the mental process of mental defilement and the fetters that bind the mind from one existence to the other. So now there are 8 distinct stages of this transformation known as Magga Phala Chitta, Lokuttara Magga Phala Chitta. They boil down to 4 distinct levels of enlightenment. Now enlightenment simply means you discover and rediscover the 4 noble truths. Now what does it amount, what does it mean by discovery of the 4 noble truths? At this level, supermundane level, it's like experiencing all the 4 noble truths simultaneously, as explained in the very first sermon of the Buddha in Sarnath, Dhamma Pavattana Sutta, where the Blessed Lord has very clearly enunciated the process of enlightenment. In distinct, the 4 noble truths in 12 distinct modes are experienced simultaneously. And when that happens, the mind undergoes total transformation. And then the being becomes Anya, like Anya Kondanyo, the first enlightened disciple. Lord Buddha says, oh, Kondanya has become enlightened. So now, these 4 levels are the level of the Sotapanna, one who has entered, it means entering into the stream of Nibbana, which means that you enter into a process. Nibbana, enlightenment or experience of Nibbana is a process at 4 distinct levels. And each level has got 2 steps. The step of the Magga, where you destroy the fetters, and the step of the fruition, where you enjoy the bliss of emancipation for having destroyed the fetters, which amounts to freedom from certain planes of existence. A Sotapanna, having destroyed the 3 fetters, most gross and coarse fetters that tie a being to the Kamaloka, the world of desire. See, a fish is a watery creature. Say, in the marine, in the ocean, the marine creatures live in a watery existence. Their whole existence is completely conditioned by that watery, the salty, watery existence. In the Kamaloka, beings can be compared to that. There are 11 distinct planes of existence. The lowest being the most, the hellish existence, where it is unmitigated suffering, and from a long time, unimaginable suffering. A being in the Niraya lives, let us say, in a temperature which is billions of centigrade. You put a big mountain and the mountain becomes liquid instantly. That kind of heat. And there he lives in that intense heat, yet he doesn't die. He undergoes that immense suffering. Then there are other also, like the animal existence, like the ghosts, like the demoniac beings. Now these 4 planes are known as apaya. The plane of loss, or where you pay for the evil deed, unwholesome deeds that you have committed. And the result is that you suffer there. Whole life is nothing but suffering in some form or other. So now there the consciousness is of a very weak type, and it's just basically plain suffering. Above that is the human plane, where you have both, you suffer and also enjoy happiness. It's a combination of both kusala, akusala. Above that, there are the 6 devalokas. Now this is a kama avachara, where life is very conditioned by desire based on sense. The 6 senses were equipped. We are equipped with these 6 senses, 5 material and 1 mental. Now sense desire dominates life, and that's why in this plane the mind gets defiled very easily, and you keep on being born and reborn and born and reborn ad infinitum, endlessly. But if you develop samadhi through jhana, then life becomes a different quality of existence altogether, where mind is not defiled in the sense that it is in the Kama Loka. The 5 mental impediments to spiritual progress are done away with, so the mind is relatively pure, and there you live very blissful existence, but you are still subject to the law of karma and rebirth. So now, if the Brahma develops samadhi and also vipassana, jnanas, any of these 8 stages I have mentioned. Now, in this stage, 8 stages today, I wanted to talk a little about that. Now, the 4 levels, Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arhat. The Sotapanna is totally liberated from the 4 subhuman planes of existence. So it's totally liberated from these worlds of suffering and nothing but suffering. But the Sotapanna can be reborn in Sugati, this realms of happiness represented in the Kama Loka by human as well as the 6 Devalokas. He can be born in them at the most 7 times. Now once he develops Samadhi, he can be born in the Rupa Vajra. But his life will be limited to 7 times at the most. And during these 7 times, he is constantly purifying, he is training himself up. He is called Sekha, an under-training, spiritual under-trainer, who is constantly training his mind and thereby developing and perfecting his mental equipment to a state where it will become, he will go upper and upper. Now Sotapanna, once he has developed enough, he has developed the Sakadagami level, Sakadagami, Magga and Phala. There he can be born only once in the Kama Sugati as a human being or as a divine being, God. And thereafter he is born as a Suddha Vasa Brahma God. He becomes an Anagami, completely liberated from the Kama Loka. The 11 Kama Lokas and all the conditioned existence, like the fish in the water. We live in the fish of desire. In the water of desire we live. Now that is gone. You are in a different dimension of existence, known as Suddha Vasa, pure abodes, representing 5 spiritual faculties: Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. Saddha means a conviction, a faith rooted in wisdom, rooted in the understanding of reality, not a blind faith. Saddha can be blind, and that will lead you involve you more and more in samsara in the name of religion. Religion, which is supposed to free you, liberate you, will only prolong you in samsara if you have a blind faith. So in Buddhism, there is absolutely no place for blind faith. It must be rooted in wisdom. I have mentioned about the 4 noble truths simultaneously experienced and experienced otherwise also. Now, in Kama Loka or in Rupa Loka, you can understand the 4 noble truths. But it will be an intellectual knowledge, it will be inferential knowledge, and indirect knowledge of the reality, ultimate reality. But in the case of the Sotapanna, Sagadagami, Anagami, Arhat, it's a direct experience, simultaneously. Now when it's an intellectual knowledge, you can't think more than of just one truth. At the most, you can think about Dukkha Satcha, Dukkha Samudaya Satcha, Dukkha Nirodha Satcha, Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada Satcha. No more. Simultaneously you can't experience 4. It is done only when the mind is transformed and when you are directly experiencing Nibbana, realization of Nibbana. So in the last verse that I referred to of the Metta Sutta, based on which this series is undertaken, the last sutta says, verse says, holding no wrong views. Here wrong views means about self, soul and things like that. The egocentricity created by views on self and soul, I-ness, my-ness and all that. The self-illusion. Now, a person who has come up, developed this through Metta, Vipassana, Panya, and has reached the supermundane, the transcendental level, His consciousness is totally freed as a Sotapanna, totally freed from Sakaya Ditti. No more of this self-illusion, of self as a separate entity, different from others and all that. No. A Sotapanna's mind is very, very universal. He doesn't think in terms of, in selfish way, I-ness and all that, but always in a more collectively, it's in a universal way. So now, with that, two more fetters are destroyed. So Sotapanna, Sakaya Ditti, Vijikitsha, Silabbata Paramasa. Silabbata Paramasa is another type of Ditti. Ditti is belief in all external activity to be sufficient enough to bring about spiritual or even mental purification. No, it doesn't happen. You go to a temple, pay some money, or go to a church and give your fee and do your confession, etc. just mechanically. You have broken all the 5 shilas, and then you confess and say, okay, now you are freed, God has saved you. Now that doesn't just happen. It's a belief. It's a belief in rites and ritual, superstitious belief at that. And this ditti is very terrible. It keeps one in samsara ad infinitum. So it's not only belief about self and soul and things, but belief in the efficacy of external activities to be spiritually potent. No, it's not. So these two are destroyed by Sotapanna, and therewith any kind of doubt or skepticism and cynicism. A cynical person is a miserable person. He can never understand because his mind is closed, blocked, and any kind of cynicism. So all these are destroyed by Sotapanna, so his mind is transformed. And if it is further transformed, because it's a process of cleansing. Once you become a Sotapanna, it's nothing but cleansing, cleansing, cleansing. So the other two more fetters, one is sensual desire, the other is ill will. They are not totally destroyed, but absolutely attenuated. They become atrophied, so to say, inactive, they can't function. It's like when your hand is paralyzed. The hand is there, but it's paralyzed, it is ineffective. It can't work. So it happens like that. So the Sagadagami, having achieved that, is no more subject to the birth in the Kama, you see, more than once in Kama Loka. And then he goes to and becomes an Anagami, and he perfects the 5 spiritual, I was talking about these 5 spiritual indriyas or faculties. So faith being one. Faith rooted in wisdom. Then virya. You see, the difference between the Buddhist approach to spirituality and the other theistic approach to spiritual life, if it is spiritual at all, mostly it is religious. Now, the approach is that of virya, effort. Through self-effort alone you can bring about self-transformation. You are fettering yourself constantly with your activities, volitional activities. So you have to get out of that process yourself. That means you have to put forth effort. You have to be energetic, vigorous, and persevering, unrelenting effort until perfection is achieved. That's a faculty. Then sati, mindfulness. That is the very center of all spiritual life. Then samadhi, meditative concentration, not just intellectual concentration or aesthetic concentration, no. Even the cat has a concentration when it sees a rat. It has a very big concentration, looks at that and then pounces on it. And then gobbles it up. A thief has concentration. He concentrates his mind how to go and steal and rob somebody. So it's not just mere concentration of that kind. It is meditative concentration. Very powerful, which brings about a mental unification. And the mind becomes empowered. Concentration means power. A refined oil is concentrated. Therefore, it's much more valuable. A purified mind is concentrated. Therefore, it's very powerful. And samadhi, sati, samadhi, panya. Panya is not mere knowledge. It is wisdom, insight into reality. It is seeing through the ultimate nature of things, as distinct from knowing things intellectually, which is a secondary, through concepts and ideas, which are mental constructs. You mentally construe them, build them, and then try to know through them. It's like putting on a green glass, a green spectacle, and you see everything green. Your concepts are nothing but that. Your concept of self is nothing but that. Concept of soul, nothing but that. Your belief in the superstitious adherence to external active rites and rituals, nothing but that. So, it is a non-conceptual, direct experience of reality, and this experience transforms the mind. So, in the Suddhavasa, all these 5 faculties are completely purified and matured. They are made matured. So, you achieve that when you reach there, and you are no longer subject to be reborn in Kama Loka. You can be reborn only there. And there you become an Arhat and achieve your full enlightenment and become a perfect one and liberated. Now this is the process of mind, the transformation of mind. Each stage has got 2 steps, Magga, Phala. I will talk about that in the next discourse. May the blessings of Lord Buddha, his Dhamma and Sangha surround Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. We had a break in this series on universal love. Last week we had a symposium, or rather a seminar on the devotees going for pilgrimage in Sri Lanka. So this will, to bridge the gap, we'll again recapitulate, we'll briefly survey the various topics that have been covered in this series on the practice of universal love, based on the Buddha's discourse known as Karaniya Metta Sutta. That is the discourse on the philosophy and practice of universal love. Now, having said all this, we'll start with the first topic that we have discussed in this sutta. The Metta Sutta, first of all, the historical background of the sutta is very interesting. Some 500 monks during the rains retreat, they went to the Buddha and seeking the blessings of the Blessed Lord, said, Lord, please give us blessings so we can go and settle down in some forest region and meditate with earnest determination and achieve the goal of spiritual life. Achieve, in the sense, bring about self-transformation with the realization of Nibbana, which simply means become enlightened one. To realize Nibbana is to become an enlightened one. So now, these monks went with this very, very noble objective, and but they did not go with a mind, you see, of at least some measure of humility. They thought that they have got their own practice of meditation, they know their own methods, and they just want to say, okay, may you be happy, or some blessing, and they will look after themselves. That kind of approach. And so they were practicing the Anapanasati and one or two other auxiliary type of meditations. They were not used to this approach of metta as a philosophy of life. Metta means universal love. But actually, there is no one English word which can comprehensively cover the facets of meaning that the Pali word metta has. It's a multi-significant term. And the best way one can approach this, to define metta through English words, is say the word universal love, meaning unselfish love as distinct from love which is tainted by sensual attachment, sensual pleasure, a sense of possessiveness, possession, and worldly, the sensual relationship that people have, passion and all that sort of thing. So here is an absolute unselfish, untainted by any worldly passion, but sublimated love. And love here means the wishing and well-being of happiness, promoting the well-being and happiness of all in the same way as you do to yourself or to your near and dear ones, your loved ones. Now that is metta. Matuno bhava iti metta. The mother's approach towards her children. A mother can give, give up her life to protect her child, her only child. That is the analogy given in the sutta. So, develop a consciousness which is so sublime and all-embracing that you have the same feeling towards everyone. You have the same feeling of promoting others' good just as you would promote your own good. So, it is reversing the normal attitude which people have. The so-called normal, it is actually abnormal. It is one-sided because it's not rooted in wisdom. If it is rooted in wisdom, a person will know that there is no such thing as individualized existence. We live a gregarious life, a life collectively, you see, all interconnected, interdependent and mutually related. That kind of life. So when we know, when people say, well, I want to be independent, well, there is no such thing as independence, nor is there anything called dependence, but there is only interdependence. That is the law that governs all forms of life. That is the reality. So wisdom sees through this, the basic interdependence of life, not only between beings, individual beings in a family or in a group or in a country or whatever, but in between nature and human beings. When human mind degenerates and becomes very violent, cruel, arrogant, nature also reacts. Now, for instance, the problem that the world faces today is environmental pollution, ecological imbalance, all due to human greed. Sorry. All due to human absolutely senseless and mindless greed and pleasure mongering. And right, instead of saying right is might, you say might is right. Everything topsy-turvy. So, this kind of approach, when human beings, when they value this approach, nature will react. There will be climatic changes which are very dangerous, and so many other things, and I'm sure a thinking person knows these things very well. So we don't need to go too far into these matters. So now, the interdependence of life is the basic philosophy underlying the practice of metta. That no life is actually singular or sovereign. No. All interdependent. Therefore, there is a need for mutual concern and love, mutual interaction of a friendly relationship and friendly interaction, peaceful interaction. This is because of this basic interdependence of life. So it is not a mere sentimental affair, no. Love, 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 sentiment. They say all religions teach love. What is this love business? People must understand. So Buddhism doesn't preach or teach any sentimental love and honey love business. No. It's all based upon wisdom, which means knowledge of truth. Now, the word philosophy. Philosophy is the study of truth. Therefore, the acquisition of wisdom. That is philosophy. In the West, study of philosophy or wisdom simply means this: study, know what is true and so on. But not so in the East, particularly in the Buddhist context. It is not enough that you study what is truth, but you practice what is truth. You realize what is truth. And then you go further, you become the embodiment of truth. And that is what an enlightened person is. Buddha is a supreme embodiment, the noblest ever personification of ultimate truth. So a truly wise person is truly compassionate person. To the extent you are wise, to that extent you become more and more compassionate, concerned about others' pain and suffering. Not merely you see, drowned with your own burden, with your own problems and your troubles and difficulties, but with the sufferings of all. So metta has to be understood in this context, not a mere sentiment, but something rooted very deeply in wisdom, which means the experience of truth. It's a non-verbal knowledge, direct knowledge of reality, which means experiencing by having the vision of truth, ultimate truth. And that is exactly what the sutta says in the last gatha, in the last verse. I'll come to that. So, metta, having defined metta in this way, will now go further. This sutta, the historical background as I mentioned, these monks went there, they went to the foothills of the Himalaya. Very beautiful area indeed, Ramaniyam, most delightful, with in an area where huge ancient trees have grown. And a whole vana, a whole grove of ancient trees, and around which a little rivulet, a small stream running, encircling that little, wood. And the rivulet has banks full of white sand. Very beautiful. It is the way it is described is absolutely wonderful. So in this delightful place, these monks went and settled down. But before entering into that wood, they had to pass through the nearest village, because they had to depend upon a village for their body's needs, for their arms' food. So, when they reached this village, which is nearest to the wood, the villagers welcomed them and said, "Oh, Venerable Sir, most welcome, please come, what can we do?" He says, "Upasakas, we want to settle down in a quiet place, in a nice place, and practice meditation during this rains retreat season. 3 months of rains retreat season." They said, "Oh, we are honored, Venerable Sir, that you have come here for with this noble aim. We are at your service in every possible way. Sir, how many of you are there?" So the leader, the Maha, he says, "Well, we are 500 altogether." So they said, "Yes, sir. What a wonderful coincidence. Exactly 500 households in this big village. And we have been practicing the teachings of the Buddha, and we are a farming community, and it will be very, very, a great fortune for us to look after you, sir. Please reside in our area. That wood is within the precincts of this village." So they said, they invited them for the meal, provided them with a very sumptuous, good meal, nutritious meal. Then they said, "We will build for you, for each one of you, a hut, and provide whatever other things that you require. You require some pots of water for drinking and for washing, etc. And then you need a place to walk up and down for meditation. And all that we'll do for you, sir. Each family will take care of one monk, and we will serve you, sir, in every possible way." So these monks were highly delighted and are very, very happy and very grateful indeed So after having their alms meal, they went to that wood. Now they sat down. Huge, huge trees, my goodness. Each monk chose one particular tree. At the foot of the tree, he made a nice little meditation, platform sort of. And then he said, very good, the Upasakas in one day built each one a nice leaf hut, very nice, and made a little bed and a bed of bamboos, and very, very pleasant and almost romantic atmosphere, spiritually romantic, I mean. And so they settled down there and they lived. Now these trees were inhabited by what you call Rukkha Devata. Some beings of the divine realm, some devas, some gods, who are tree gods. They are known as tree sprites in English, but I don't know how far that is correct. They are not ghostly beings or anything like that. They are divine beings of some kind, some celestial beings. They were very happy too that these monks have come and settled down here and they are meditating. But then they said, look here, these monks are going to practice meditation. And we are going to be on the top of them. Our little vimanas, that is our little celestial buildings, or rather dwellings, which the human eye cannot detect, but which is very real nonetheless. And these, we have our own little families, divine families, and how can we live on them, on the top of them? They're all holy people. No. Let us go and give them, let us have them as our guests, and we'll go and settle somewhere, you see. So, for some days they remained, you see, in other trees here and there around, looking anxiously when these monks will depart. They were dispossessed of their homes, so to say. Therefore, they thought, well, they will go tomorrow, they will go day after tomorrow, well. But these monks are told, they saw that they are not budging at all. So they said, look, they are not going to budge from here. They have settled down very comfortably. Okay, we have to live also. We have to live. We should have live and let live policy. Now these monks don't care of that. They care only about their own meditation and their own salvation and whatnot. They are selfish. Okay, we'll find ways of dealing with them. So they counseled among themselves, sat down. They said, look, the only way we can get them out of this place is by assuming all kinds of horrible figures. You see, ghostly figures of most frightening and terrible figures, materialize ourselves in such forms and gone, right? You see, just in front of them, remain suspended in front of them, looking terribly like. There, these monks meditating there, they felt the presence of some beings around them. And what did they see? They see these horrible ghost-like apparitional beings. Horrible face, a being, for instance, one fellow came just the head, nothing, with 3 or 4 eyes, most monstrous looking and frightening, fearful looking, with red eyes and all that. Now, so this monk got very, very frightened indeed. So he quietly bolted and he went away to his kuti. So this, everybody got this. Again they went, all right, never mind, we'll go and sit again. So they sat there again. So they said, no, mere looks and visions, not enough. We have to drive them out by attacking their ears. We attack their eyes now. But now if they keep their eyes closed and meditate, then, so let us attack their ears. That they can't close. So, they made a horrible sound, absolutely hue and cry, and like you see 100 bombs bursting around you. Now, these monks just couldn't meditate with all that racket of terrible news, noise. Then they say even then they were bearing somehow. Then they assume one by one all the objects of the senses. Horrible stench, absolutely unbearable bad smell of feces, of this, of that. All over, they simply suffocated. Like this, they became very lean and thin just in the course of a week. They couldn't even sit. They were so tired and so frightened and so debilitated. And those upasakas, those devotees say, what happened, sir? Why are you looking so lean and thin and so terrible, yellow? You have all become yellow. So they said, well, my dear devotees, how to say, we are being attacked by these ghostly creatures, and what to do? So they said, no, there are no ghosts here. This is a very wonderful, quiet place, sir. We have never seen any ghost, nothing. So they said, now these people won't believe. So, okay, they went and sat down and counseled among themselves. They said, look, hardly a week has gone, and we are in this terrible mess. Good, let's go back to Bhagavan, to the Blessed Lord, and beg pardon from Him for breaking the rule of the retreat, the monastic rule of retreat, you see. So, take pardon for that and ask Him for giving us some other place or do something to solve our huge problem. So, they went. They walked again back to Savatthi. And Buddha knew everything, every bit of details. He had already seen through everything and he knew why these things have happened. But that all compassionate Lord that he was, with his benign look, he sat there as though he knew nothing. And so when the monks came, yes, what happened, monks? Bhante, this is what happened. So they almost cried and went on describing the horrible experiences each one of them had. So Buddha sort of heard nicely, very calmly and lovingly, said, look, my dear, I can't see any place in the whole world where if you go, your objective will be fulfilled. No. You have to go back to the same place. And that is where your objective will be fulfilled. So, I enjoin upon you, go back and practice meditation there. Now, when the Buddha says this, no monk will dare to say anything. They know that the Buddha is all-knower, Sabbanyu, he is omniscient one. And he says only for the good of everybody. So they say, Bhagavan, how to go with this horrible? My goodness, they started almost crying. So Buddha says, don't worry, my dear. I will give you something, okay? I will give you a sutta. Entitled the Sutta on Universal Love. You went there to practice meditation, very good, for your own salvation. What about the salvation of others? You didn't think. Did you? No. Well, that is where the problem lies. The problem does not lie with the ghosts. They are not ghosts. They are some form of devas. They are very kind and good to you. You didn't know. You didn't care to know also. But when you kept on being self-absorbed all the time, thinking about your own salvation, your own selfish end, then you got what you deserved. Now go back to the same place, okay? And then take this sutta, learn it by heart. All the way you go back reciting this sutta is a paritrana sutta. It's a protective sutta. It has got spell-like qualities. It is vitalized with spiritual vibrations and power. It has a potency of its own, spiritual potency, and it will work. So, these monks learnt. Quickly they went, and as the Bhagavan wanted them, they just went it. Again, they worshipped the Master and took his blessings and said, Lord, we'll do whatever the Lord has said, and may all our problems disappear. Buddha blessed, he said, yes, my dear, the problems will disappear. Don't worry, just practice. Mind you, this sutta is not just some kind of a mantra you are reciting and all that. No. It's a practice plan. And you've got to practice whatever this sutta says. Every word has got meaning. Every word is suffused with powerful spiritual meaning. And you've got to put all these into your life. So they learned, they knew the meaning. They're all very highly developed already. So, sorry. They went there, went back. Now, when they started from Savatthi, Jetavana, you see, monastery, now they started reciting mentally as they went. Every second of their existence, while walking on their way back, nothing but this sutta. Repeating the sutta maybe 100 times, 1,000 times, continuously. And then they got totally vitalized by the power inherent in the sutta. Their minds became completely freed of any element of fear or any kind of resentment or any kind of anger or any kind of nothing, no negative emotion, nothing. Very positive, with a very open heart and full of love, full of friendly feeling. And with that they went. And as they neared that place, they kept on reciting loudly, because it was a jungle place. They could do that. And as they approached that vana, that wood, that grove of ancient trees, that teak trees or some such very valuable timber, and lo, you see what a wonderful thing that has happened. These devas got so much influenced by these powerful thought forces of metta, these thought vibrations of metta, universal love, seeking their well-being and happiness, not just their monks, their own happiness. No, no, no. All creatures, whether human or non-human, may all beings be happy. May all beings be well disposed towards everyone. Sukhitatta, sukhita atta, be well disposed. So when they went on doing like this, first of all they entered the village. The villagers now, when they had left the place, they never told the villagers at all. They just quit. They just bolted out of fear. So now, when they returned, after a few days, they said, "Where have you been? What happened to you, sir?" They kept quiet. They said, "No, Bhante, please do tell us, we are your devotees." "Well, we are so frightened, or so almost we became crazed with fear. So we just ran away. Sorry, we didn't tell you. Please forgive." So they said, no forgiveness is required, sir. We are very anxious about you, what happened and all that. We even went to your place. The entire place is just absolutely deserted, nobody there, looking deserted. So we were a little frightened. So now, they very lovingly fed them, and again carried some other things that the monks may require, and went to the whole lot of them, accompanied them in that vana. Then they settled down. Now, before they can actually enter the vana, the monks told these devotees, no, please go, we can look after ourselves. That little stream we will cross and we'll go. So they went back. Now, just before the stream, before they could cross the stream and to the other side, to go to the woods, to their huts, these devas materialized themselves in the human form. All putting on white dress, looking very devout and very, very nice, welcoming with the hands like this. "Welcome, venerable sirs, welcome, venerable sirs." So these monks said, "Oh my goodness, who are these? But they are so good people, they look so fine." So they say, yes, thank you very much, my dear, thank you very much. Then these people went there to their huts and did everything for them and said, "Sir, we'll look after you. Whatever you need, don't worry. We'll see that even the birds will not come and trouble you." Then suddenly they transformed themselves in their own form, dazzling as luminous beings, bright beings, lights. These monks seeing them like this, "Oh, look at these, they are the inhabitants here. And we selfish people, in the name of our own well-being, we have neglected we have occupied their homes, and without taking their permission, and then they became dispossessed." Bhagavan said, what the Bhagavan said is true, 100% true. It is always true only. He is the very embodiment of truth. So, they say, "Please forgive us, devas, we will not do anything, please." So, these devas kept a watch around that whole vana wood. They won't allow anyone to intrude in the place, whether it's a human being or an animal or a bird. Not even a chirping of the bird. Nothing. Pin-drop silence. And these monks enjoyed a whole, 3 months, wonderful retreat. And within that period, every one of them, they practiced Metta Bhavana in three steps, as found in the Metta Sutta. One, Metta as a virtuous conduct. Everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you think should be so surcharged with Metta that it will benefit everybody, yourself and the others, and everyone. So whether they went out for their alms round or whatever they did it with a heart filled with loving kindness and friendly feeling and goodwill. Similarly, They meditated on metta meditation and cultivated samadhi, the ecstatic supraconscious states of absorptions, each one. And then on that they developed vipassana, insight, the supermundane, direct insight knowledge of reality. And all of them became arhats, fully enlightened disciples of the Buddha. After 3 months, now when they became arhats, their looks, everything changed. And those 3 gods were so very, they're so gracious. They occupied some other trees throughout the 3-month retreat, and they materialized themselves as human beings and served them, brought their water from the river, did everything possible, to make their life very comfortable. So when they were leaving, these devas, paid homage to them very reverentially, and they went to the human, the village. There also they were received very, very devoutly, and then they went back to Buddha, reciting the same suttas. All arhats, all liberated, enlightened beings, with heart filled with all-embracing love. Now this is the historical background of the sutta, my dear. Today I will leave it at this. Then I will pick up the thread in the next discourse, deal with the Metta Sutta once again that we did at the very beginning of the series. Actually, this is the 32nd in the series today. So, with this I conclude. May the grace and blessings of Bhagavan Buddha surround your lives with wisdom and well-being. May you all be filled with metta. May your hearts be radiating metta wherever you are. May you all be happy. Sukhino bhavantu.